All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time here, this podcast is all about kind of talking through, being the best versions of ourselves, living the best versions of our life, mainly learning to better utilize our minds, our brain, mental health, all the stuff and things related to that, and just kind of talking through some stuff. I use my horses a lot to kind of fuel the conversation, so that's in there too. So today I wanted to chat a little bit about dealing with adversity and coping with bad things that happen to us. Now, we know mental health problems in the country are on the rise, have been on the rise. Well, there's a lot more anxiety and depression than there ever has been in the past. And of course, some of that is arguably because we diagnose more for it now than we have in the past. But that's a small percentage. The reality is mental health problems are truly more prevalent now than they have been in the past. And also, just to repeat it, if you haven't listened to this podcast before, I am not a psychologist. I do work in healthcare, but it is not in the mental health field. So I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert. The stuff that I talk about on here is based on my experiences, based on what I have read and studied about on my own. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Always consult an expert for expert opinion when expert opinion is needed. But for the purposes of this informal chit chat on here, back to what I was saying, mental health is definitely statistically on the rise in the country and has been for many years. And there's a lot of theories about why that is. The food we eat is a lot unhealthier and worse than it ever has been in the past. So that's one possible contributor. There's many other things as well. But the one thing that I have read a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists talk about is the fact that children are not being taught coping skills the way maybe they were generations before us. And they aren't learning as they're growing up to deal with adversity as much as the generations before us. And the theory slash school of thought, related to that is if you don't learn to deal with problems, to deal with adversity, to deal with issues, if you don't learn to feel your emotions and cope with them in a healthy manner when you're young, it will always be something that you struggle with, down the road. And we see that more in the way children are being raised in the recent years, than in generations past. Children, for the most part, of course, this is not every single individual, this is just kind of a blanket average statement, but for the most part, children are more coddled than they have ever been in the past. They're not disciplined the same way that they were in the past. They're not allowed to feel feelings but then be held accountable and responsible for dealing with those feelings and emotions. I mean, when something bad happens, of course any child is going to be upset, and that's normal and that's okay, but you can't teach children that you know, just mommy and daddy are going to make everything okay and not teach them to be responsible with their emotions and their feelings, and learning and practicing coping with those things that happen to them and dealing with bad things when they happen to them. With adults, like with people who are adults, in modern day society, something bad happens to them, whether they get upset, whether they get bad news, whatever the case may be, and they just simply can't process it and react to it, in a healthy, logical way. There's overreaction, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of lashing out by people, and all this goes back to you just don't really understand, or those people just aren't really good at or able to process those bad things and process the emotions that happen and deal with them in the healthiest way possible. And I was thinking about this a little bit because my one barrel horse, who I've talked about on here before, Cheyenne is her name, and she had emergency surgery last year. She colicked, had to go for emergency surgery. After surgery, she had a post-surgical complication that we weren't really sure, how it was going to pan out. Bottom line is, long story short, this time, exactly, actually, like this month last year, my world when it comes to her was completely flipped upside down. Like I went from having this amazing, trained, finished barrel horse that could, competed all over the country competitively and did well, like was competitive all over the country, fun to ride, safe to ride, just an amazing horse that I had trained myself. So obviously there's also the relationship you develop. It's not just about their performance, but like I love this animal, and my world went from I have her and she's healthy and happy and I, will be enjoying her and competing on her indefinitely. It went from that literally overnight to one, my horse may die. Two, if my horse doesn't die, she might never be able to be ridden again, or never be able to be, competed on again. And everything just flipped on its head, overnight. And that's what happens when bad things happen to us, right? I mean, I worked in health, well, I still do. I work in healthcare. I've worked in healthcare for around 18 years or so. And I've always worked in critical care, in trauma, in places where you see every single day, you see somebody's world get flipped completely upside down. I mean, one day, when you talk about trauma patients, for example, it's like one day you're healthy and fine, and the next day you're in a car accident and you have a spinal cord injury and you can't walk again. I mean, this is the caliber, this is the story, that for a lot of years I witnessed and saw every single day I was at work. And, newsflash for anyone who hasn't thought about this, it's not just the person that was in a car accident that is now paralyzed. It's not just that person whose life is now turned completely upside down. It's every single one of the people around them in their life that cares about them, their family, their friends, their lives are now flipped upside down because now this person that they love and perhaps even depended on to take care of them, whether it be financially or physically or whatever, like this person in your life now all of a sudden went from being normal and healthy to a spinal cord injury and can't walk and is wheelchair bound and needs all the stuff that comes with that. So your world, as you know it, whether it is something that happens to you yourself or whether it is something that happens to the people around you, your world as you know it can be flipped on its head at any moment. Everything you know about your life can change at any moment. And we take that for granted, like even when we try to be aware of it, even when we try to be cognizant of it, we do take it for granted. And that's probably a little bit healthy because you don't want to be walking around every day, every second of every day, with this nervous, anxious, doom and gloom picture over your head of at any minute something bad could happen. So it's probably healthy from that standpoint, but it is also very important for us to just remind ourselves, pretty frequently that everything we love, everything we do, everything we know, the experiences we cherish, it can all change in the blink of an eye. It can all be taken away from us in the blink of an eye. Everything you know, everything about your life, your world can change in a split second. So we should intentionally live accordingly because of that. I say live intentionally, with that in the back of our mind, I mean a few things. And I want to go back to the example about my horse to really, show an example of this. So when all this happened with my horse last year, of course I was devastated, right? But I was, number one, as prepared as I could be. So I have stall cameras on my horses. I have insurance on my horses. I have, a good vet that I trust and that I've worked with. There's some things in life that you simply cannot control, but out of the things that I could control to be as prepared as possible, I had done those things to set myself up to be as prepared as possible for when the wheels fall off the bus. And that's kind of that's kind of the term I use, and this is the thing horses will teach you. The wheels inevitably come off of the bus. Like, horses, this is the world of living with horses and having horses. Like, one day, everything is fine. The next day, everything is chaos. Somebody hurt themselves. Something bad happened. They're not performing like they used to. What's going on? You have the backtrack in your training. I mean, it is a roller coaster of ups and downs and emotions. And if you don't learn to first of all prepare for the unknown as much as you can. Again, you're never going to prepare for everything, and you certainly can't control everything. But if you have a tire blowout on the side of the road, you should be prepared for that by having a spare tire and equipment to change your tire on the trailer, and that makes a big difference. Like your tire still blew out, but you were as prepared as you possibly could be by having the backup plan for if that tire blows out on the side of the road. So number one, be prepared as possible. Understand that things that you cannot possibly expect or possibly predict, understand that they are an absolute, like they are going to happen. It's not a matter of if they are going to happen, it's a matter of when. When are they going to happen and what are they going to look like? So be prepared for the unexpected. Be prepared for the wheels to fall off the bus as much as possible because whatever the bad situation is that happens, that preparation is going to make the situation so much better when it does happen. Number two, and this is a really big one. Number two, like, of course, when all this went down, of course, when I got the news that my horse may never compete again or may never be ridden again, of course, my world was devastated, right? You know, like, of course, I'm upset about that, obviously. But the emotion that I did not have, and this was really important, so pay attention. The emotion that I did not have was regret about, you know, how I had already experienced this animal. And that one's a big one, guys, because when everything you do in life, again, you have to keep it in the back of your head that at any minute it can all be taken away, it can all change, everything you know can be different. So it is important to live life intentionally and accordingly. Like, cherish what you have when you have it. Enjoy what you have when you have it. Be appreciative and grateful of what you have when you have it, and pursue the experiences that you want to pursue when you have the opportunity. If you push things down the road, if you say, I'll do that next year, I'll do that in 5 years, like, I'll do that when, you know, this, that, and the other happens. Like, when you kick the can down the road, you are risking the wheels falling off the bus before you get the opportunity to really soak up whatever it is. And I didn't have that with my horse. I mean, of course I was sad, of course I was upset, obviously, but I didn't have feelings of regret. There was zero feelings of, man, I wish I would have, you know, enjoyed her more, or man, I really wish I would have taken that trip to that barrel race with her because now I may not get to, or like, man, I should have, like, you know, soaked her up while I had her because now I might not have her anymore. There was none of that because I purposely and intentionally lived my life with her, as I do with many things. Try to do with all the things. I lived it intentionally with the perspective that at any moment it could be gone. So, I mean, everything we wanted to do within reason, we did. You know, I mean, of course, you're always going to have limitations. I mean, we have work, we have bills, we have other responsibilities. I mean, you can't just run around doing exactly what you want 100% of the time. But I purposely designed my life to be able to do a lot of the 100% that I wanted to do with her. And we did experience so much together. And I cherished every moment of that, like, for exactly what it was. Like, there was never oh man, I wish that run was a little bit faster. It was come out of the arena and be grateful and happy. And I guess I shouldn't say never because that would be a little bit of a lie because years ago I wasn't as intentional and I did feel upset and depressed, you know, and sad if I didn't have the run that I thought we should have or that I wanted. But I flipped the script on that years ago, and I did it on purpose and intentionally because of exactly what I'm talking about now. So for the last handful of years, you know, there's been none of that. Like, I enjoy her, we enjoy each other, we enjoy what we do, and I make sure she knows every day how much I love her and how much I want to take care of her, and, you know, there was no regret. When they came in and told me this might be it. You might not get your horse back. There was sadness, there was grief, but there was no feeling of, oh man, I wish I would have just, you know, done this one more thing with her, or I wish I would have just, you know, pet her more, or loved her more, or gave her more treats. There was none of that. And that is my hope for all of you out there in everything in life. You know, live it intentionally and purposefully, knowing in the back of your head that at any moment it could all be taken away from you, and you don't want to have regrets. Like, you don't want to look back and be like, oh man, I wish I would have told that person how I felt, or, oh, I wish I would have taken that trip that I never took, or, oh, I wish I would have had that experience that I never got to have, or, oh man, I wish I would have gone home every night and just thanked God for the life that I have, and just in my heart been grateful and appreciative of it, because now I don't have it anymore. So don't let that be your story, because the wheels inevitably fall off the bus, and everything inevitably at some point or another will get turned upside down in its head, and you can't control that. All you can do is control how you respond to it, and take that burden off of yourself. Like, don't add feelings of regret on top of all the emotions that will come with this bad thing when it happens. The third thing that I feel like I've gotten really good at, and again, a lot of this is because of the horses and just the inevitable roller coaster of emotions that they put you through, like, all the time. Some of it is because of that. Some of it is because I practice, trying to make my brain good with coping and dealing with issues. And another part of that is like I said, I've worked in healthcare for many years. I've seen a lot of tragedies, and my brain has become a little more accustomed to, to dealing with those things than maybe other people's brains might be. But the point in saying all that is the number three thing is try to prepare yourself to emotionally and mentally deal with the wheels falling off the bus. This does a few things. When you are, highly aware, sometimes to a fault, when you are highly aware of how quick the wheels can come off the bus and how quick life can change and how quick it can all be snatched from your fingertips, when you are aware of that and when you think about it, it does a couple of things naturally. Like, for me, it naturally makes me appreciate everything that I have, and it naturally makes me want to enjoy to the fullest every experience that I have. It's just a natural thing. Like, when it's kind of in your thought, in your thinking, wow, this could all go away at any second. Like, it naturally just forces you to enjoy and live every experience and to prioritize in your life the experiences that you want to live, and to quote unquote live in the moment, as everyone says. So it kind of forces you to be more mindful and more intentional when it comes to that. The other thing is it makes you better at coping. Like, it makes you better at dealing with bad things when they arise. It shouldn't be a surprise, guys. Like, and I don't say that to mean to be callous. I don't say that to dismiss anyone's feelings. Like, it's gonna be bad when something bad happens, and there's gonna be grief and anger and sadness and turmoil and all the emotions that come with it. Like, they're gonna be there, of course. But the emotion that shouldn't be there is an emotion of surprise. Like, you should be prepared for the wheels to fall off the bus at some point. Mentally, you should be prepared. It doesn't mean you want it to happen. It doesn't mean that you wake up today thinking today is the day. Like, it doesn't mean that, of course. Like, enjoy the good times and live in the good times and soak them up for every ounce and drop that they're worth, because it's limited. And at any moment it's going to change. So it shouldn't be a surprise when it changes. When it changes, it's like, okay, I didn't know exactly what it would be. I didn't know exactly when it would come, but I knew this day was coming. And you know what? I soaked up all the good times and prepared myself mentally to deal with this. And now I'm going to deal with this in the best way possible. And that's all we can do in a bad situation. When it comes to my horse, there was not a single thing I could do to control what happened to her. You know, I couldn't have prevented it. I couldn't have changed it. I asked the vet, I asked the surgeon, I asked the vet multiple times, what could I have done differently? Nothing. They said nothing, nothing, nothing. There's nothing you did, there's nothing you didn't do that caused this to happen. Like, it was out of my control. There was nothing I could do to control it. And once it happened, you know, there was very little I could do to control, you know, what happened next. Like how the surgery went, how the recovery went. I mean, a lot of that is just you praying that things go well. I mean, that's really all you can do. So there was nothing I could have done to control that. There was nothing I could have done to predict that it was going to happen, exactly when it was going to happen. The only thing I could have done in that moment is respond well. And sometimes that makes all the difference. Like when you're able to respond from a clear headspace. Like, let's not panic, let's not lose our heads, let's keep it together, let's keep our emotions in check, let's use the part of our brain that critically thinks and problem solves, and let's make the best decision, the best path forward, and let's try to get out of this bad situation the best that we can. And that's really all you can do. That's my little talk today. You know, don't shy away from adversity. Don't shy away from things that make you feel uncomfortable, because this is a natural part of life. Like, we have to deal with things that are bad sometimes, and you want to be well equipped to do that when those things happen. And you want to also make sure you have no regrets about life if and when those bad things happen. So give us, you know, some food for thought. Hopefully maybe it speaks to somebody out there and you know, helps somebody. About my horse, I will say, you know, she has had a full recovery. It took about 8 months of rehab and recovery and all the things, but she is back at it, you know, and back competing and back to being, you know, just really happy and healthy. So, you know, I'm very, very grateful for that. And yeah, so anyway, I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening. And please tune back in. If you think somebody you know might like this podcast, please share it with them. And we'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.